Let me move on to show you the PowerPoint. So here are the routes that the Buddha moved around during his lifetime. So here, Kapilavatthu is where the Buddha kingdom, what you call second kingdoms, where he grew up. After he left his palace, he went to Magadha kingdom to practice with some ascetics for a few years, for 6 years. And later on, he gave up that kind of self-torture tradition. So he went to Gaya to sit under the Bodhi trees to attain enlightenment. And after his enlightenment, he went to Varanasi here to teach the first 5 monks who were his companions before they left him. And after that, he went around this area by foot to spread his new teaching, and million people eventually follow him. So he passed away in Kushinagar right here. And after his passing away, there was a first Buddhist council that gathered together to recite orally the Buddha teachings. The story is as, let me tell you this. Okay, this is a chart. Okay, here. So the first Buddhist council, so 3 months after the Buddha passing away, and this happened at the Sattapani Cave, Mount Vihara, city of Rajaraha. I just show you this right here. This is the city, or the capitals of the Magadha kingdom. And Venerable Mahakassapa, he gathered 500 arhats, or holy monks, under the sponsorship of King Ajatasattu. And the reason why Venerable Mahakassapa invite 500 holy monks came together to recite Buddhist teachings is that this monk Sudatta, so he was so delightful to hear that the Buddha passed away, because he said, well, no one can control him anymore. He's free. No one would tell him to do this, to do that, to keep this and not to do that, and so forth. So that means he said that he free after the Buddha passed away. So concerning of the corruption of the Buddha teaching, that's why Mahakassapa gathered 500 arhats to recite the Buddha teachings again 3 months after the Buddha passed away. And this is the purpose, to preserve the purity of the original teaching of Buddha. And so they decide for 7 months. And in this assembly, in this first Buddhist council, Venerable Ananda, he decided the Buddha teachings because he followed the Buddhas for more than 25 years, and he has the great wisdom to remember most all of Buddha teaching. That's why he's considered as the foremost disciple in memorizing the Buddha teachings. And Venerable Pali decide the Vinaya Pitaka, or the books of rules and disciplines. So they decide for 7 months in that cave, 3 months after Buddha passing away. So that's the first Buddhist council. Again, around this city here. And according to the Buddhist records, most of the tradition accept this first Buddhist council. Most of the traditions. So the second Buddhist council happened 100 years after the Buddha passed away, in the Valukarama monastery in the city of Vesali. Vesali is here. You can follow that. And it was beside run by these holy monks, Venerable Sabrakami, Venerable Yasa, Venerable Rebata, and Venerable Ajita, together with 700 holy monks under the sponsorship of King Kalasoka. And the reason why they convened the second Buddhist council, because of 10 controversial points and propagation of false doctrine. So here, Vachi here, that's the place that occur. So basically, they argue about some points like can the monk accept coins, silver or gold? Can they eat afternoon, and so forth? So that's why they convened this second Buddhist council 100 years after the Buddha passing away, so that they can preserve the purity of Vinaya rules, discipline that laid out by the Buddha. So the Sangha, that means the Buddhist monastic communities, was divided into two denominations, or sect, the Theravadas and Mahasangika. So they decide for 8 months about the Buddha teachings. And the third council happened 250 years after the Buddha passing away, in the Ashokarama monastery in the city of Pali. Actually, it's around here, or right here. This city where they have the third Buddhist council. So Venerable Magadliputta Tissa, beside this Buddhist council, together with 1,000 holy monks or arhat, under the sponsorship of King Ashoka. The reason why they convened this Buddhist council, because so many fake monks and heretical views. So the result is to expel, or the purpose is to expel the fake monks, to preserve the purity of the Sangha. So they decide this Buddha teachings for 9 months, and after that they dispel more than 60,000 fake monks. And after that, King Ashoka sent 9 delegation, Buddhist delegation to different countries to spread Buddhism right here. So he sent some group of monks even to Athens, Alexandria, Antioch, but Bactria, Thailand, Central Asia, Sri Lanka. He sent his son and daughters to spread Buddhism in Sri Lanka, and he sent to what they call Suvarnabhumi, or the Golden Land. Scholar mentioned that probably that was the country of Burma, Thailand, even Vietnam too. So they have not determined the exact location that King Ashoka delegation went to. This one is clear. So this 9 delegation went to Hellenistic Kingdom, Kashmir, Rik, Gandhara, Himalaya, Paranta, and some stay around India, and South Asia country. So that's the delegation. Okay, after the third Buddhist Council, and according to the Theravada traditions, they have 4 Buddhist Council. It's happened around 450 years after the Buddha passing away at the Aloka Cave in Sri Lanka. Venerable Rakita Mehathera lead 500 Buddhist monks or holy monks to convene that council under the sponsorship of King Pathagamani Abhaya of Sri Lanka, due to the moral declination and prevalence of materialism in Buddhism, and so the effect of the war and hostile king, so that they can design and render into writing the Tipitaka and preserve it from external threat like war and so forth. So according to the record, most scholars agree that the Tipitaka was written on the old leaves for the first time. They can make copies and distribute them all over country of Sri Lanka, and it take 1 year. Let me go back here. So for the first Buddhist council, because there's one corrupt monk, he's so delightful to hear that the Buddha just passed away, so no one could control him anymore. So with that concern, Venerable Mahakissapa convened 500 holy monks to recite the Buddha teaching orally. And so for the first Buddhist council, there is no writing at all. And the second Buddhist council has happened because of the dispute of some minor rules within the Buddhist monastic communities of monks. So it split out 2 traditions, the Theravadins and Mahasanghika, and later on become Mahayana traditions. And the third Buddhist council has happened again because so many people took advantage on the generosity of King Ashoka, who sponsored Buddhist monks and nuns to practice spiritual life. So many of them ran away from material life or the secular life to enter the monastic communities to enjoy their life due to the direct support of King Ashoka, and they hold all kind of wrong views about Buddhism. So that's why the king requests Venerable Magaliputta Tissa to convene this third Buddhist council. And after that, he dispelled 60,000 fake monks, the one that didn't have intention to practice except taking advantage on the king's generosity of support for the Sangha. And according to the history, they wrote some books in Sanskrit, but not in formal way until the Fourth Buddhist Council. It happened that because of the famines and the war, so the monks concerned that the Buddha teaching would not be preserved well, and people would not remember the Buddha teachings at all. That's why officially they wrote down the Buddha teachings on the Ola lips for the first time, and it took them a year. Let me share with you a short clip about that place, the place where first Buddhist teaching were compiled or written down.
In Buddhism, practitioners take refuge in the Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha.
You can't expect your team to manage work with this. With Monday.com's flexible management.
Buddha. According to historical records, after the Buddha's death, followers transmitted the teachings orally from generation to generation. The first time in history where the teachings were recorded in written manuscript form is located in Alu Vihara, the place where I'm now standing. 2,000 years ago, 500 selected monks in the council wrote down the Buddha's teachings on palm leaf manuscripts. This body of work is called the Tipitaka. Let me now show you how these palm leaf manuscripts are made. The illustrative paintwork and the Buddha statues in the interiors at Aluvihara are contemporary additions to remind visitors and pilgrims of the important quality and beauty of the Buddhist teachings that were recorded centuries ago on the palm manuscripts.
Anyway, so that is the place where first the Buddha teachings were written on the palm leaves, and later on it spread to different countries like Thailand, Burma, and so forth. We can discuss about that. Okay, so that's the first place, the place where they first written down the Buddha teaching officially. But please remember that during the Third Buddhist Council, they wrote some Buddhist textbook in formal way too. I think the Sanskrit words. Okay, according to the Theravada traditions, they have the Fifth Buddhist Council. This happened in 1871 in Burma, presided by Venerable Jagarabinvamsa, with 2,400 learners under the sponsorship of King Mindon of Burma, so that they can prepare the uniform edition of Tipitaka in Pali and wrote down on marble slab so that it could endure in long periods of time, and it took 5 months for them. And the Tipitaka was written on 225 marble slab and enshrined in a library cave called the Mystery Library. And also, according to the Theravada traditions, the Sixth Buddhist Council happened in 1954, 2,500 years after the Buddha passing away, in a cave, Mahapasana, in Burma, Myanmar, under the leadership of Venerable Redvata, with 2,500 learned monks under the sponsorship of the Burmese governments to affirm the teaching of the Buddhas and propagate the Dharma all over the world. And it took 2 years for them. The monks from Sri Lanka, Laos, Cambodia, India, and Thailand also participate in this Sixth Council. So I just want to give you the overview of the Buddhist Council according to the Theravada tradition records. But according to the Mahayana tradition record, yes, they accept the first, second, and third council in a similar way as I just explained recently by the Theravada monks. The difference is that during the four Buddhist council, it says that it happened in Kashmir. Let's see here. Kashmir is up north of India, right, in this area, under the sponsorship of Kanishka king of Kushnana dynasty under the chairman, the leadership of Venpo Vasumitra and Ashwagosha to compile the Mahavibha Shastra, or the Sanskrit commentaries on the Tipitakas, the division of Buddhists into Mahayana and Theravada. So that's a bit different from the Theravada views. And here the image of the first Buddhist council at Rajagaham, at this place, right here. And the second Buddhist council, actually the third Buddhist council, under the sponsorship of King Ashoka, and the king went there and asked the monk directly about the Buddha teaching. So those are the Buddhist council, and here we move on to talk about the Tipitaka, or the three baskets of the Buddha teachings. Again, the Buddha teaching were divided into three baskets, or three categories. The first one is the basket of discourse, of teaching of the Buddha and his close disciple. The second is the basket of discipline, or rules, a regulation for the Buddhist monks, nuns, and lay people to observe. And the third is baskets of analysis, or commentaries about the Buddha teachings. So for the baskets of discourse, the teachings of the Buddha include the collection of long discourse, what we call Digha Nikaya. The second one is collection of middle length discourse. The third is collection of Kaitric discourses, Samyutta Nikaya. The fourth collection of Rajya discourses, and Guttara Nikaya. And the fifth is miscellaneous collection, or Kodakam Nikaya. In this collection, it has miscellaneous texts, some teaching about the path of the Dharma, the verse of uplift. The third say that means the direct teaching of the Buddha, discourse collection, the stories mentioned, the story of the path. The story mentioned that means the story about the celestial beings came down to seek the Buddha teachings directly. The story of the path, that means the story of ghosts, a hungry ghost, being who was sufferer in low realm of existence. And the Theragatha, the verses of the monks, the holy monks who have attained holy ship or arahantship. So they spoke those verses of Gatha. The verses of the nun, or the holy nuns who attained arahantship, and spoke the verses that explain about their life in spiritual practice, and how they attain nirvana. The birth story, that talk about the past life story of the Buddha, what we call Jataka tale story. The exposition, the explanation of the teaching, the way of analytical knowledge, lives of the saint. That's talk about the life of the Buddha's close disciple, the history of the Buddha biography, and the last one, the basket of conduct. So these are the miscellaneous collection of Buddha teaching. And when we move to the baskets of discipline, Vinaya Pitaka is include the major offenses that the Buddha laid out for Buddhist monks and nuns to follow. The minor offenses, the red section, the lesser section, the epitome of discipline. So basically, this basket of discipline lay down the rules and the moral obligations that Buddhist monks and nuns need to follow. So that's this basket is talk about, and also they talk about how the monks conduct themselves in monastery, how they run the temple, or how they live together in harmonies. And the last one, the baskets of analysis. So it mentioned about the classification of phenomena, the division, the discourse of elements, all kind of human types, points of controversy, the books of pair, the causal relations. So here, that's what we talk about, the baskets of analysis. And let me move further here. It's explained a little bit in detail here. It's similar that the thing that just mentioned recently. For the Vinaya Pitaka or collection of monastic disciple, it talk about analysis of code, the monastic act, the grave violation, the confession, the red section of the books and lesser section of the books, and the explanation of these books of discipline. So this all kind of rules and regulation within the Sangha or the monastic communities for Buddhist monks and nuns to follow. And here again, I can mention about the sutta, a collection of discourses, and the same way I can mention about that. Let's see here. When we talk about the Sutta Pitaka, this one is long discourses. It has 34 sutta, or the scriptures. The middle length discourses, it has 152 sutta, and the connected discourses, it has 62 sutta, and the numerical discourses, it has almost 10,000 sutras, and plus the short discourses as listed here. The short readings about 9 sutra. Dhammapada is one of the most famous one that has 423 verses in 26 thematic chapters. The next one is Inspired Utterance. It has 80 small sutta, and the other one is This Will Say. It has 112 sutta with verses, 71 sutta with 1149 verses, and 85 stories about Devada mansion with 1289 verses. Again, that's talk about the life of celestial beings, how they were born into celestial realms, and how they follow Buddhism too. And they have 51 story of ghosts in 814 verses that talk about those hungry ghosts, the suffer beings, and how they came about, how they have to deal with their past karma, to pay karma in that form of life. And they have 1288 verses of Arhat Bhikshu in 263 set. Again, let's talk about the verses of the holy monks. That's basically explain about their births and how they attain arhatship. And they have 524 verses of Arhat Bhikshuni, that's mean Buddhist nun, in 73 set. They put in their verses about their birth as well as their enlightenment. And they have 547 birth story of the Buddhas in 2809 verses. That's talk about the past life of the Buddha. So this only relate to the Sutta Pitaka, the Buddha teachings. And here, this is what the Pali canon, the Chinese canon, the Tibetan canon. So again, the Vinaya, the book of discipline, Sutta, the teaching of the Buddhas, Abhidhamma, that's the analysis, the commentaries of the Pali canon. And the next one is the Chinese canon. They have the Vinaya Sutra or Sutta. It's in Sanskrit. They translate from Sanskrit into Chinese. Abhidhamma, again, that is the books of commentaries and analysis, and they have additional section of some story teaching of Buddhist monks in China and so forth. And the last one is the Tibetan canon. They have two sets. The first one, what they call Kanyuk, include the book of discipline, the teaching of Buddha, the Mahayana Sutra, Tantra, and other texts. The Tenku, that include the analysis of commentaries books, the treatises, and other texts. So basically nowadays we have these three main canons: the Pali, the Chinese, the Tibetan canons. Of course, the most popular one is the Pali one. They have translated all of the sutra into English. The Chinese canons mainly were translated from Sanskrit by many translators throughout the years since the early first century, and the Tibetan canons was compiled in the 7th, 8th century. So now we have these three canon exist, so that we can rely upon them to study the Buddha teachings. And here are the box scroll from ancient region of Gandhara, as in the present day of Pakistan and Afghanistan. That, let me see here. That's right here. This is around Gandhara. This is around here, the Pakistan and Afghanistan area. And they are among the oldest surviving Buddhist manuscript. So they are in Gandhari, in Kharosthi strip. So Gandhari is a language related to Sanskrit and Pali, which was used in the era from the 3rd century BC to the 5th century CE. So they wrote in black ink with put a red pen, so the scroll make up the section of glue together to form a long strip. So this is the evidence of the Buddhist teaching ever exist. And this is a scroll about the Lotus Sutra, known in Sanskrit, the Sutra of the Lotus of the Wonderful Law. So this sutra was translated into Chinese from Sanskrit. So again, here you can see the map of how Buddhism spread around the world, and here this the starting point of Buddhism around 6th or 5th century BCE, and later on it spread to Central Asia, to Sri Lanka, to all these areas in the northwest of India, and it's spread to the Far East, to China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, and actually the red arrow is talk about how Mahayana Buddhism spread, and the green one is the Theravada, the blue one is the Vajrayana, as mean the Tantric tradition. And this is the map here, and Kumarajiva in the 5th century, he was one of the most important translator. He went to China to translate thousands of Buddhist teaching from Sanskrit into Chinese with the help of hundreds or thousands of Buddhist monks in China mainly, and from other countries too. And even the Lotus Sutra was translated by him, as well as his translational teams. And here Pa Xing, a Chinese monk in the 4th or 5th century, he went from China to India to seek for the Buddha teaching, that he went back to China. And the most famous one is Xuan Chan in the 7th, 8th century. He walked by foot from China here to India, and after that he collect the sutra back to China, and his trip took him 16 to 17 years to complete, and he stayed at one of the most famous Buddhist university, Nalanda, to study Sanskrit, to study Buddhist philosophy and teaching. And after that he brought back the Buddhist Sutra to China, and his journey was so famous that there was visionary books, Journey to the West, was written by a Taoist man, but that is not the real story of him, but many people through many generations love that visionary books. But of course, if you want to read more about his life, you can type online now, Travel of Xuan Chan. So anyway, this is the general explanation of the Buddhist Tipitaka and how they will come about. Let me go back here. Let me show you, like I just mentioned recently, the meanings of the Tipitaka or Tribhakas, and let me share with you. Let's see here. Let me stop here for a while. Let me pull out the file. Okay. So let me share with you some illustration of the Buddhist textbook. You can find online now. Of course, like I told you that you can use Wikipedia as the reference, but you're not supposed to quote them in your writing, because you need to check with the source. But at least they provide some general information. So it says that here the Buddha teachings were written into various Indo-Aryan languages like Pali, Gandhari, and Buddhist hybrid Sanskrit. And later on they were translated into Chinese and Tibetan. So these are the illustrating of the Sihalis cover. That means this Sri Lankan Buddhist textbook. And for the monks, at first, like I explained recently, that they did not write down anything until the third Buddhist council that I just mentioned recently, during the periods of King Ashoka, and officially they wrote down in the palm leaves during the fourth Buddhist council. They wrote down the Buddhist teaching in Pali, and later on they translate into different languages. So again, the Buddha teaching that's called Buddha Vaikana. So in the Theravada traditions, that's the standard collection of the Tipitaka or tree basket. In East Asia, like the Chinese one. Let me share with you this one here. Here, a Chinese Tipitaka or tree baskets. Most of them were translated from Sanskrit into Chinese, and that would call 3-4 baskets or sanjan. And the official one that was compiled and made in Japan under the Taisho emperors from 1922 to 1933. So that's what they call Red Sutra storehouse of Taisho era. So they include Agama Sutra, that's equivalent to Nikaya, the past condition of Sutra, the Prajna Sutra or the Wisdom Sutra, the Red Sutra of Profession, and the Diamond Sutra, Dhamma Blossom Sutra or Lotus Sutra, and that has several translations, and the Flower Garland Sutra that has several translation too, and the Treasure Scroll Sutra, the Nirvana Sutra that talk about the Buddha's last teaching before he passed away. The Recollection Sutra, the Miscellaneous Sutra, the Sutra of the late Bodhisattva, the secret school, the Tantric school, the Vinyaya, the discipline books, the Indian Sutra and Shastra, the Abhidhamma texts, that means the commentaries, and the Madhyamika, or the three traces of the middle paths teaching, and the yoga coaching text is the course about the concentration practice, and all the miscellaneous shastra commentaries, and the commentaries of the sutra, Vijnana and Shastra, on the writings from different schools of Buddhist traditions, and the historical writings about the biographies of eminent monks, and the apologetic text of Buddhism, the outer text teaching, the catalog, the fragments, and plus they list out the fake Buddhist teaching too, so that later on people could recognize them. The record of Buddhist teaching that was written by Fasin, I just mentioned recently, and many small sutra or short sutra that belong to Mahayana traditions. Again, the Chinese canons also has Vinaya, books of discipline, sutra are the discourses of the Buddhas, and the last one is Abhidhamma, that means the commentaries and analysis. So these are what we call the a Chinese Tipitaka, or red Tipitaka. And in Tibetan traditions, basically, I just mentioned recently, they have Kayuk, or the translated word of Buddhas. All the texts have the Sanskrit original, and some texts were translated from Chinese or other languages too. The 10 yuk translate treasury of Shastra, the section to which they assign commentaries, Presti, Abhidhamma, both in Mahayana and Theravada traditions. Plus, they have the Tantric textbook too. Okay, so let me stop here today. That is the general information about Buddhist textbook, how they came about. Okay, so see you soon.